Good. Danny, Gene, we all good? Might as well start on time. Welcome, everyone. It is Tuesday, November 21st, 2023, Warren Township High School Board meeting. As we start off every open session, we're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes to tonight's agenda?
I do not.
If not, I move to approve the agenda. Second. Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Pope. Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. DeMonte?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thanks very much. Now on to recognitions.
Last week was School Board Member Appreciation Day, so just want to recognize all of our board members.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's hear it for us.
Yeah.
Or something. Now for the good recognitions.
We have, so.
There we go. You're green.
Can you guys hear me now?
Sure.
Okay.
I've got that lightning inside me, son of a god. I'm like a titan that's rising, oh just you watch. I'm stepping into fate, there is no time to waste. I've got that lightning inside me, this is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. I'm cranking up on the throttle, victory is mine. Show you the harder the battle, harder I fight. I've come too far to quit. Step back, I'm going in. I'm cranking up on the throttle. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made.
Next up, we have time for public comments. Book, I'm sorry. But if anybody would like to address the board, now is the time. The podium's all yours. You're allowed 3 minutes to address the board on the topic of your choice, so feel free. While it's too long, I'm assuming nobody wants to go forward. That brings us on to committee reports. Hey,
I don't have, I do have an item from the insurance committee, under discussion, but it probably would be good to get an update from any board members that were at the safety committee meeting.
So at the safety committee meeting, which Dr. Keeley led, there was a nice cross-section of people there. Great discussion. Probably went 1 hour longer than he wanted it to, as we were there until 7. But we talked about possible secured vestibules, entries at the campuses. We talked about mass notification expansion and kind of waiting a little bit until we see if Verkada, the product that we're using for doors and cameras, if how that would kind of interconnect. Talked about window film. We talked about stop the bleed training, looking at the flip charts, developing a communication plan for our safety plans and enhancements to make sure the staff are aware of just how much we're discussing this and how serious we're taking it. Had a nice discussion about metal detection and the schools that are using it. Some site visits that people on the committee made to look at them at this point, not worth pursuing for Warren. And we talked a little bit about IDs and having students scan them as they come in and out of the building. So a lot of discussion. Some decision points were made, and looking forward to the next committee.
2 quick questions for you, Tony. Refresh me again, window film. What is that?
So bullet, not, there's no such thing as bulletproof, but yeah, I mean, there's various thicknesses and degrees of window film. So putting that strategically in locations to slow down someone's ability to penetrate through the glass.
Is that something you put over existing glass, or is it new
Yes,
glass?
you put it over existing glass, and you want to slow down, delay.
Yep.
So you want to delay enough until the Gurnee Police Department or Lake County Sheriff can be here to intervene. So as far as where that would go, there's more discussions I think to be had, but there was, I guess, some interest in pursuing.
We have some.
Yeah, I would hesitate to, in a public meeting like this, specifically identify the locations and give that away, but I think there was a desire to have more.
So in other words, delay until there's more time to respond.
Yeah, it can be expensive, so I just the thickness being enough to the point where someone could respond to it. So to our threat or to whatever's happening here.
My next question, in a nutshell, and it's not easy to do, metal detectors. What were the pluses and minuses?
Yeah.
You said no action at this point. But
Yeah,
what was,
there was a healthy discussion at the committee about it. There's different districts around Lake County that are trying it. Some have one that's kind of like a mobile unit and kind of changes locations. There's a debate out there whether that's effective or not. We talked about the culture and climate of the school and what having those here would create for kids. Is it a school, or is it a feeling of a prison-like atmosphere? And then probably the biggest inhibitor appears to be manpower and false hits. So I believe when they were observing some of this, kids would set it off. They would have to get wanded, and then it could be their Chromebook, it could be their iPad that's setting it off, could be a cell phone. So the amount of manpower it would take to staff those and then do the secondary pat down or wave or whatever they're doing there, like the amount of staff that it would take to make this occur, it would be very difficult to do. So there's a balance of, are these systems in place, are they foolproof? Probably not. I mean, if a kid tried hard, they would probably succeed, unfortunately, but they could also, though, act as a deterrent to where kids don't even try. So it was a nice, healthy discussion. And yeah, I said at this point, because I think anything in the topic of safety and security is always open for discussion, and things can change, but there didn't seem to be an appetite at that time to continue the discussion. And please correct me, Dr. Keeley, if I'm misspeaking or anything. So
how much did it slow down getting all the kids into the building?
I can't speak to.
Okay.
But,
That's fine.
well, yeah, because you're not going to have these, they're expensive as well, so you're not going to have them all around the school. They're going to be, limited, and you're trying to get thousands of kids into here. So I think there's a worry there that it would definitely slow down kids getting into school. And the debate of how effective is that really anyway? Is the trade-off worth it?
Very quickly, in reference to the film, or there was a concern expressed by the teacher, I believe he was a teacher there, that somebody could just come to his door and look in and see where the kids are hiding and that sort of thing, so it was to obscure the view. He was very interested in that.
There was yeah, that's true. Scaring the view as well, so it'd be out of sight. Yeah, feel free to add more. I think that was it. Was there anything, Dr. Keeley, about, just because you were leading the committee, was there anything more about the window film that I missed?
No, that was it, just,
Okay,
so Dr. Keating also talked to the board and
yeah,
session about applications and things like that.
yeah,
Cost of that.
yeah. Okay, and there was, all right.
About, he was more worried about the side window panel.
Yeah, the side window panel, so anybody could look in and see what was going in the classroom, yeah.
And they do make those on the market, lockdown sheets are what they're called, so you can quick release and cover the window, so people can be out of sight of the threat.
Thank you very much. Anything else on the committees we want to go into?
I would just say, Mrs. Pope can let me know if I'm off target, but Diversity Committee met again last week, and we're in the process of reviewing a handful of different firms that other school districts in Illinois have used for a DEI audit. At the conference, there was a pre-conference that Beth and Susan and I attended around DEI, and we happened to spend a lot of time with one of the providers just by happenstance. That was really impressive. Let's see, and I think that when I talked to Natalia about some of the sessions that she went on DEI, she did kind of validate that a lot of the sessions talked about one of the first steps you need to do to really try to hit DEI is to have somebody come in and do an audit and tell you where your gaps are. So we'll have finished reaching out and getting kind of overviews and proposals from different groups by the next meeting in December for that DEI committee.
Good. Okay, let's move along into the consent agenda. I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented, which includes personnel recommendations, Exhibit A, numbers 44 through 50 as posted. Number 51, Karen Kostakis, resignation and athletics, activities, and volunteer personnel recommendations per Exhibit B. Number B-236, the payment of bills dated November 21, 2023 in the amount of $5,707,528.93. Regular meeting minutes and executive session minutes of October 24, 2023, and acknowledgement and accept gifts to the district as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Anderson. Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes,
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
I skipped over superintendent's report. I'm sorry, Danny.
It's okay.
The
One
most
thing I would.
important person in the building, and I skipped right by you.
That's okay. No, one thing I would highlight in my monthly report is that Paul and I did work with IASB and scheduled the board training for February 13th. That date should be on everybody's calendar. We're just going to use a committee of the whole night to have that board training. And then we have the Schuler program in to provide their annual update to the board. So I'm going to cede some time over to them right now.
Okay, we should be on. Thank you for welcoming us. We always enjoy being here and talking about our program. So we'll go ahead to the next slide. So we're going to do a year in review, talk about the scale of our program, how many students we anticipate to bring in, our college matriculation outcomes, college graduation outcomes, talk about our alumni, and looking ahead into the next year and our current successes. Just a quick overview of our program. We are a program that supports first-gen, low-income, underrepresented students to get into highly selective institutions. These are the students that make our work worth it, and we refer to our students as scholars. We want to develop lifelong learners, and here are examples of our students putting that into action at different, what we call exposures, which are field trips, experiences that they wouldn't be able to have otherwise. Next slide. And then this is the team that makes it happen. I'll introduce myself, and then I have a team here with me. And we're looking our Sunday best on those photos, in case you wondered. I'm Uriel Gonzalez, and I am the school director. I was the former college counselor, and so I've been here now for 6 years.
Hi, good evening. My name is Esther Hong. I'm the educational counselor. I recently joined the team last semester, so can't believe it's already been half a year. It flew by so quickly. And prior to this, I was a middle school science teacher for a decade and a half.
And then, hello, my name is Andrea Cruz. I am the college counselor for Schuler at Warren as of September of this year, but I was previously an academic coach for the past 2 years. So I've been with Schuler for quite a bit now. Mm-hmm.
So in essence, my role is to make sure we're working together very closely with Warren and that we're achieving the outcomes that we promise for our families and our students. The educational counselor is basically an academic interventionalist. The college counselor supports our students into getting into those highly selective institutions. Our academic coaches do the individual coaching and individual work with our students to get them to those outcomes. So our organizational goals, in short, we're a to and through college program, college access program. So we select as many students that are qualified for our program. And then we do our best to support the students while they're in our program to have the academic profile for these highly selective institutions. Then we hope they are accepted to these great liberal arts institutions, and then also graduate from these institutions, and we say and beyond, right? We want them to be also successful in their career, in their personal lives after Schuler. So our mission is to equip high-achieving and underrepresented students to gain access to and succeed at highly selective colleges and beyond. So why our mission is even more important, I like to bring up this slide every single year, right? Now the big change in the college admission world is that the Supreme Court has decided to eliminate race-based admissions practices, which affects the highly selective institution admission process. But our colleges have remained committed to diversity and inclusion and access. And as an organization, we are feeling even more committed, even more invigorated, right, to support students who we know will benefit from this type of education, and the classroom spaces will benefit from the presence of students with different backgrounds.
So we just wanted to share, if you guys look to the left side of the bar graph, it shows our average of how many students that we have selected in our program. Notice that there is a dip since the pandemic, but we've greatly increased it since then. There are two colors that you'll see. There's qualified in the blue, and there's potentially qualified in the gray. Basically, for our program, there are 3 pieces of criteria. If you are at least meeting the low income criteria, the 1 out of the 3 that puts a student as labeled as potentially qualified. But to be qualified in the blue, that would be 2 out of the 3 criteria met, at least, which is the academic qualification as well as, first, thank you. And on the right side is, wait, let me scale back, one more thing. So we are on target for reaching out to the middle schools and selecting between 16 to 20 new students for the freshman cohort that'll be joining us next year, very soon. And on the right side, we are just sharing the trends of our scholar numbers from year to year. The good news is that we haven't really lost students due to academic reasons. However, as you can see, between the 22-23 school year, due to 4 of our students moving out of district, that's why we were not able to retain them. Sorry. We made a huge shift in coaching this year. In years before, we had a full-time STEM tutor available in the room. However, that is not the case anymore. We have shifted our coaching to focus more on executive functioning skills. So really, we are going back to the basics, such as using a planner, teaching our students how to plan and prioritize for their assignments and upcoming assessments. We're also working on helping our students self-advocate for their education. Simply, how can they communicate with their teachers and ask for help? And lastly, we are very much focused on teaching our scholars study strategies paired with their learning styles. And we can play to their strengths on that, but our goal is to also help them develop in the areas where they might not be as strong as well, to prepare them for high school, college, and beyond.
So in terms of our college attainment for our class of 2023 seniors, we had, of a class of 12, 2 of them went to a non-Schuler school, which was U of I. 3 of them went to Lake Forest, so shout out to Lake Forest because they actually were on the list of best colleges by Princeton Review for this year, which is really great. And then the other 2 also went to McAllister College, and the remaining 5 students from that class went to an assortment of schools of all liberal arts institutions, Whitman College, DePaul, Wellesley, and that. If you could go to the next slide. Thank you. So then the average gift aid that our students received for that class was approximately $61,000. And like Uriel and Esther have said, we want our students to be successful beyond college. So the first step to doing that is getting them into college and then supporting them through college. So our college and alumni programs team has a variety of resources available to students to reach out if they are ever in need. So that would mean transition to college programs, which actually starts in our 2nd semester for seniors, mentorship programs, college connections ambassadors, panels, workshops, career fairs, and then a variety of scholarships and grants that we also offer our students. So for all seniors matriculating to Schuler schools, we offer a $2,500 scholarship per year. And that's for all of our students that move on into Schuler schools, as well as students that are continuing through their 4 years of college, as well as health insurance grants, a startup grant for our first-year students so that they can pay for a laptop, pay for dorm supplies and whatnot, as well as grants for things like unpaid internships if they want to have an internship over the summer, but it doesn't pay. So yeah. And then for this year, for our seniors, we have 9 of them. 8 of them have submitted early decision applications at this point, and 1 is just waiting to submit an ED2 application. And then all 9 of them have submitted a variety of early action applications. And we currently have acceptances, which is really nice. So they're starting to roll out. We've heard back from Ohio Wesleyan, Lake Forest, and Beloit so far, and Kalamazoo, which, yeah, didn't get to update on that, but.
Can you explain to our board members what early decision and early actions are?
Oh, yes.
They might not all know that.
At this point, I'm just like, it's just so, I'm so used to it. But basically, early decision is an application type that is binding for students contractually. So parents and scholars are in agreement with the institution that they want to go here, they're committed to going here. And the reason that we do that is because it's often strategic for students to do so in terms of financial aid. So a lot of highly selective institutions will take in a percentage of their whole new class of freshmen through the ED round. And so we encourage our scholars to apply through early decision. We also offer a lot of college trips throughout their years being in Schuler, so they start as during sophomore year, yeah, to do college trips and whatnot. So we expose them early. And then early action is just like the non-binding, but still expressing like a high level of interest with schools. So yeah.
So students can only apply, I believe, to they only have one early decision
Yes.
token to turn in.
Yeah.
They apply to one. If they get it, that's it.
Yep. Which would be nice because they hear back December 15th. So coming up. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here are just some alumni updates from what would have been the class of 2018 and 2017 at Warren Township. So you can see we got some master's candidates, some people who want to be doctors, engineers, software programmers, and some Warren alumni working at different Schuler high schools. Right.
Some successes that we want to share. So recently we had 2 senior students, Israel and Chedin, who were recognized as Illinois State Scholars. High GPA, high SAT scores. So it was nice to see that they were recognized as part of the 103 or so seniors. Some other news we have, so earlier we talked about how our academic coaching styles have shifted. With that shift, we're also working with our students to get their help from Warren first. Teachers are the first step, then study tables, resource rooms, so utilizing all the school resources, which is a lot, and we're very thankful for all the resources available here. Overall, right now, we have less students who have had C's for more than 3 weeks. Typically, we've been getting them resolved pretty quickly. Knock on wood, it's been going good, especially with finals around the corner. And I think something we also wanted to add, we want to give a shout out to 2 of our freshmen, Kisaki Teverbao Shaw and Ethan Zhang. They are 2 of our freshmen who were recently recognized for the Leadership Award at the Eau Plaine campus. So they were recently celebrated with that. And lastly, something that we've also been working very hard on with our partnership and collaboration with the school. Number one, it's been amazing collaborating with the teachers at both campuses. They have been very communicative and collaborative, especially with our students who have C's or below at the moment, that we've been able to work together on resolving that. We've also been more active in the community events, especially giving out information on FAFSA, financial aid workshops, as well as how to be successful in high school, how to prepare for post-secondary options as well, especially as an example to Spanish-speaking families, as well as non. So anything else we want to add?
One last thing, I was working with Dr. Kupfer, and we realized that our students are taking very rigorous curriculum while they're here at Warren Township, and they make up about 20% of the population at Eau Plaine taking 2 or more honors courses or AP courses. So we really do put our students through the ringer, right? But it's definitely worth it, and coming from a place like Warren Township that really prepares our students is just wonderful, and I think we're the best Schuler program out there. Just say that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much for the update.
Yes, Rachel, yay!
Thank you so much.
Yeah, go ahead.
Questions? In the interest of time, we have a full agenda, but I'll ask you quick questions, quick answer, okay? First, how are you funded?
We are funded, Jack Schuler and Tanya Schuler Sherman are our founders, and they work through their investments and through what they've made over their
So you have an
first
endowment?
careers. And yes. And
Do you recruit people, or they come to you, or both?
they come to us, but we typically recruit at the middle school level, doing family nights and informational nights about our program.
Okay, and as a history major, I'm very much in favor of this. Why just liberal arts?
Our founder believes in the value of liberal arts education. It's an education that came from the Greeks back then, and it's an education that teaches them a little bit about everything. They get the breadth of doing everything, and then the depth of their major and their minor.
I notice you have engineers and doctors and everything else, people move on, but thank you.
Thanks so much.
Steve, they're also very active, like freshman course selection and stuff like, I mean, I remember meeting them with Donovan. They're everywhere. You guys do a fantastic job, frankly, so.
That's all I have for superintendent's report. Rachel is here as you move into discussion and action. If you like any student perspectives. Appreciate you coming in the night before break. That's very kind of you.
She's dressed to
That's
lead, though.
dedication. Okay, discussion items. First up is a presentation for the fiscal year 23 financial audit.
Oh, I got them.
Beginning on July 1st, the business office began working with Baker Tilly, our accounting firm, to conduct the fiscal year 2023 audit. I just want to say thank you to our county manager, Roxanne Hopkins, who headed up the audit, and also the business office staff and the district office staff that gathered all the documents for the audit. And I'm going to introduce Nick Cavalier. He is partner with Baker Tilly, and he's going to talk about the audit.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me here this evening. The board should have received a series of different bound documents. There's one that I had asked for you to just put in front of you. It's the thicker of the two. It's got this little kind of blue line going on. This is the actual financial statements for the district. And when you get that book in front of you, I'm going to have you open it to a page and then just leave it open. And if you can open it to page 17 and page 18, and then just leave it open on your desk. I'll eventually get to talking about the actual number part, but I want to just briefly go over our audit opinion. So the district is required to have a financial statement audit performed by an independent accounting firm. So we started our audit off probably sometime in early August, and we've issued our report on the district's financial statements. Our report was dated October 31st. The type of audit opinion that we rendered is what you call an unmodified audit opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that you can receive from the external auditor that your financial statements present fairly. Your accounting transactions for the fiscal year 2020-23 on what they call the modified cash basis of reporting. The modified cash basis of reporting essentially recognizes a revenue if the money is deposited into your bank account by the end of the year, and recognizes an expense if you've cut a check. You don't have necessarily receivables recognized on your financial statements for monies that might be owed to you from the state board, for instance, or a piece of your property taxes, or things that you owe people for like accounts payable. So it's purely a cash basis type of set of financial statements. That's the basis of reporting that the board and the management has chosen to report on, and it's an accepted basis for reporting purposes. The district is also required to have a single audit performed. A single audit is essentially triggered if you expend over $750,000 of federal award monies. A single audit is a very specific compliance audit. The auditor kind of follows a set of prescribed procedures by the federal government. The two programs that we audited were the ESSER funds and the IDEA special education cluster. The type of opinion that we rendered on those two programs was also unmodified. That means that we did not identify any compliance issues during the performance of our tests, and that we also did not identify any control issues in performing those procedures. So essentially, long and short of it is that you had an unmodified audit opinion on your financial statements. You also received an unmodified audit opinion on your compliance with the federal programs that we tested. One of the things that we also do, because there's plenty of things that we do as your auditor, is also gain an understanding of your internal control structure over the preparation of the financial statements themselves. So we look at all of your different processing transaction cycles, accounts payable, payroll, the bank reconciliation process, some general IT controls. And then we also take stock over all of the results of our audit procedures. If we identified any misstatements that weren't detected during the course of the audit that we caught as the result of our audit procedure, future, we would report those to you. I'm pleased to let the board know that this particular fiscal year, we did not report any material weaknesses or have any material audit adjustments in the financial statements. So an excellent job done by the administration in maintaining the accounting records. We had full cooperation throughout the audit process. There was some transition at the top. Everyone jumped right back in. You know, we had a good audit result. I'd like to move into the actual financial numbers just very briefly, a very high level overview. If you have 5 to 10 minutes when your audit is issued, your financial statements, I always recommend taking a look at this particular page. Page 17 and 18 is essentially your income statement for all of your individual funds. The general fund really primarily consists of your education fund and your working cash fund. Those two funds are consolidated together for external reporting purposes. And you have your operations and maintenance fund, transportation fund, and the municipal retirement social security fund. Those four funds are really how you manage the district's day-to-day operations. On the next page, on page 18, you have the debt service fund that purely exists for making payments on outstanding bonds or leases that you have. And when I say leases, non-transportation related leases. And then the capital projects fund is a fund that's typically used in the Illinois school districts when you have an identified funding source for a series of projects. The funding source in that fund is generally a transfer from another fund or the proceeds from a debt issuance. Which you can see very clearly when you get down to about 3/4 of the way down, there's a line that says excess deficiency of revenues over expenditures. And you can see that for the most part, the general fund, the operations and maintenance fund, municipal retirement fund, those three funds had sizable operating surpluses during the year. And that's the result of the referendum that was passed. You're starting to see those cash transactions come into your financial statements from the first installment in June. And as a result of that, there were sizable increases in your fund balances during the year. When you look at the transportation fund, I just want to point out, you see a deficit of $4.7 million, and then subsequently about 3 lines below, you see a line that says installment contracts payable issuance. The reason why you have essentially $5 million of capital outlay on that line and then a $5 million source of revenue is because the district entered into a contract to buy buses. And as a result of that, under accounting standards that are present, you have to recognize the full value of the expense of those buses and then consequently an offsetting revenue or another financing source, which you see the offset of the $5 million. So if you go about 3 lines off the bottom, you'll see net change in fund balance was still a positive result for the transportation fund. It's just kind of a matter of where those two transactions are rested within the financial statement. So ultimately what you'll see is that the district has had a significant improved financial position as a result of the referendum. I would be more than happy to take any questions from the board at this time.
I have no questions.
I'm all good. I think we're all good.
Okay. Well, thank you.
No, appreciate it very much.
Have a great evening.
Thanks, you too.
Happy Thanksgiving too.
Very much.
Stuff. Next up is some information on our school report card.
Yeah, so I am required, per my contract and state and board policy, to present you with information on an annual basis regarding our state report card and our standings with the other schools in the state. I included a link. The interactive website is the best way to look at it, so there's a link in there about it, or where you can access that. But I did export the PDF of the report card. Put some high-level celebrations, areas we need to be looking at in the future there. So I don't have anything else to add to that, but if you'd like to discuss that, I'm happy to spend more time on it.
I only had one question when we're talking about the areas of concern, that our trends are the same as the state trends. Any idea why there's decreasing, math proficiency?
Yeah, I think right now what we're wondering is if this is just a COVID impact. So there definitely was an impact on the way we felt about how we were seeing math and college applications as soon as we hit COVID, those years immediately after COVID. And I'm guessing we're going to see that for a few more years, probably. It might plateau, but that's our best guess right now.
Even though science proficiency went up at the same time period?
Yeah, science proficiency is a little bit different. The test is a little bit newer in the way that they do the test. But generally, I think we feel pretty good about the science. I don't know, Gio, I don't know if you've got anything to add about math in college.
There, I'm unmuted now. But also, like Danny was saying, some of the impacts of COVID, we're seeing kids as our freshmen come to us, we're seeing the skills with each passing year, we're seeing the skills returning more and more. So as those kids are coming to us more prepared, so we're able to bring them further along. So we're seeing some positive indicators, but we have seen a dip in proficiency over time. We're working with our math department to look at other factors and what do we think is happening, what can we do with our curriculum to make sure that we're meeting student needs and adjusting to make sure that our kids have the best opportunities possible.
Chris, could you explain just, this is really putting you on the spot, but from a curriculum perspective, English and science and social studies are different than math. There's some scaffolding in math. I think that's a little bit unique compared to the other three. Is there an easy way to talk about that?
Yeah, so in English, so I would say English and social studies, you really take the same set of skills and you build, it's almost recursive, right? You're doing the same skills, but you're just doing them more and more in depth year over year over year. So you might take a document-based question activity as a freshman, might be like a day, right? And then by the time they're juniors, they're in multiple documents and developing theses and finding research on that. In science, it's really like our kids take a survey of science courses. So they work on biology standards as freshmen. They work on more in the physical science, chemistry standards as sophomores, and physics as juniors for the most part. And there's some cross-cutting concepts in the Illinois State Learning Standards, the Next Generation Science Standards, but every year they're kind of doing a snippet of things. Whereas math, that Algebra 1 curriculum that kids take in their freshman year, that is the cornerstone of everything that they do. Even when we talk about geometry, really what's happening in geometry is you're applying Algebra 1 concepts in applying it with like some conceptual, like with shapes and some of the laws that happen with that. So every year it builds on itself. But if you don't have that key Algebra 1 understanding, you're really at a disadvantage as you move through.
Better. Thank you for saying that better than I did.
Gio, one last question. I know it's going to be kind of a leading question, but decreasing enrollment in college, could that be because kids are more going into trades, or are there other reasons?
We're not.
And if we're not sure, we're not sure. I'm okay with that as an answer too.
I'm not sure. Our enrollment in CLC is down a little bit, but we actually saw our biggest dip a couple of years ago. So every year we get our data from the National Student Clearinghouse, and so we actually have seen a little bit of an uptick, but it's not what it was pre-COVID yet. So our numbers are kind of holding steady, a little bit positive, but we don't necessarily, we know what percent of our kids go to 4-year schools, who goes to 2-year schools, who comes back for a second year, but we don't necessarily know those kids that didn't go to a 4 or 2, who went to like a trade school or to a union house or something like that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? I think we're all good. Oh, next up is a review of our 10-year facility plan.
Yeah, I'm going to turn some time over here to Chris Green. We're kind of doing this in 2 phases, though. We are giving you some information now, but plan on having a larger discussion next month, but hoping you'll be able to look at some of the information in the meantime. Go ahead, Chris.
So we're not going in depth in every year of the 10 years?
No, yeah.
Okay,
right.
just checking, just checking.
So we received the 10-year facility plan from DLA Architects. This document is an assessment of the district's school campuses, notating the required maintenance or replacement of the items listed in the document. After receiving the document, the district's owner's representative and myself met with administrators from both campuses to receive their input on the plan and capture any additional projects. Here are some notes regarding the plan. This is a draft document, and we will have a final document in the next couple of months. We'd like to use this document as a living document. We'd like to utilize it year in and year out, where we would add items. Completed items would be notated that they were completed, and the project costs would be updated. Building administrators weighed in on the draft document and their voices were heard. Costs listed in the plan are estimates. We don't know the full scope of work and what that would cost until we focus on the individual projects. The costs in this document do not include contingencies or professional fees. Some items listed in the document are the input of the administrators that we met with. We do not have costs for these projects. And some items that are in there are what we consider wish list items, and we may not have money for these projects, but we felt it was important to list them as these items could improve the educational environment of our students. So we will continue to work on this document for board discussion at the December meeting.
Are there specific things? I know one of the things you asked us to do was work on prioritizing and timelining some of the work out. So we'll work on that. Are there other things that you'd like us to take into consideration here as we put that next step together for you?
This is different than life safety, or this includes life
It
safety?
is some life safety.
Well, yeah, it's not a life safety plan. There might be some items that could be in there that are life safety, but it's not geared towards life safety. This is pretty much maintenance, right,
Have to fix this eventually, but
Right.
there's no timeline on any of them.
correct.
Nothing says you need 2 million for this, but that doesn't mean it could be 10 years from now, or whatever. I mean, I'm not, right.
A couple pages of worn out floors.
A lot of floors.
We have a lot of floors, so that would make sense, but
We also, I believe, asked them to identify any ADA issues, right? I didn't see anything specifically flagged, although I know some things we talked about were listed in there. Did they not find anything significant to list, or was there anything specific?
Yeah, we did show them a handful of things that we've talked through, and we have started working on like the elevator lists or the list, for example. So there just weren't any huge like red flag items for them. Now they did, I think, when when we went through the full report, they made sure to clarify that they weren't doing a full ADA audit, but if they saw things, they would pull them in. But we had identified really the big picture items. I believe that's how they approached that with us. Chris, unless you have anything to add to that.
That's correct. And we did work with our facilities director, David Gregg, to take some of the items off that the list that we originally presented, which he determined that his maintenance team could handle. So some things that probably came through on the original document have been removed. They were basically like, maybe a light switch or, just minor things that the maintenance team could do.
band room is in there, or the
It is,
lift and all?
yeah.
Okay. I don't have anything specific, but we have to figure out a way to have it
Chip
come
it
out
down.
in a little, in a little dribble, not in a fire hose, you gotta figure, I don't know how we do that.
Yeah, Chris, you want to maybe tell them what your plan is in terms of marrying this with projections, financial
So
projections?
next week at the finance meeting, I'm hoping to have 5-year projections where we can start looking to see what we will have available for construction or maintenance projects. And then come probably January or possibly at the December meeting, we can start prioritizing where we, prioritizing like several projects that can be met with the finances that we have in any, that particular year. So it's going to be kind of slow and methodical, but we're going to prioritize everything, and we're going to be able to match it to funds. So it is a 10-year plan, so yeah. Not everything will be done in one year, so.
It's a long list. So-
Yeah, and there's a chance that as we, when we get to 10 years, there's a chance that we've talked about items and decided not to tackle them over the 10 years, right? Just as there might be items that end up popping up on it later. We don't have to go through everything, but this will help us prioritize what we need to be doing in the shorter term and marrying it to funds available in the next 5 years at least.
I appreciate having the comprehensive list as opposed to just cherry picking things that we may have noticed or have heard, so I appreciate the comprehensive nature of what's being given us. So thank you. And that's a hard task to match this with the budget. Like,
We're going to do our best.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's
We look forward to that.
Can I throw out a couple more questions?
Sure.
Could you, could you give an example of, you just referenced, we've talked about like some wish list items that might be on there. Can you give us an example so the board can understand what that might be? I didn't talk to her about this beforehand, so she might punt. That's okay.
There was, I
Like
remember.
furniture could be,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. So, like 21st century classroom furniture, it is soft seating and other furniture that would be in the classroom that makes it more collaborative. That is not in this plan, but it's like a wish list that possibly we could do it, like so many classrooms a year and devote like finances towards that, where we could, change the flooring, paint, and put in some new classroom furniture that is a little bit more up to date, geared towards more collaboration in the classroom.
And can you talk about, or just give us an update on some of the big picture categories, like the swimming pool, for example? How did DLA approach things like the swimming pool?
Well, at the swimming pool, I think they gave the option of what would need to be done to like brace it or put in like structural enhancements to be able to sustain it, but long term they were not like real positive about long term keeping the pool in as it is right now.
Thanks for answering
We
those
all do
questions.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
We're all good. Thank you, Chris. Go ahead. Next up, we'll talk on high deductible.
Yeah, so with the insurance committee, we've been talking about high deductible plan option. And my task from the insurance committee is to come get some feedback from the board on their openness to consider a contribution to a health savings account that would be partnered with high deductible plan option, because we offer fairly good insurance for no cost for individuals for our employees. most cases, there wouldn't be a lot of reason for employees to look at a high deductible plan unless there was some type of health savings account contribution attached to it. So I'm checking, my job is to check the pulse of the board and come back and report to the insurance committee.
Are you talking about matching funds? They put in so much, we put in so much?
That would be an option. I think there's like a span of some school districts put in nothing, some will match, some will contribute X amount just by itself.
401k programs are a 3% match, but you can put
Yeah.
in 30% if you want, but
Correct.
the employer matches 3% or some combination thereof.
Yes, whatever. Yeah, I'm supposed to find out if you're willing to put in anything.
Assuming that we don't put in anything, what would be the cost of the plan to the district?
So I believe that all I know right now is that the cost would be less to the district. We haven't gone out to get pricing. We'll do that when we get the rest of our pricing this winter.
The cost of a high deductible plan to cover a single employee would be less for us.
That's what I'm saying. So net, if we were to contribute something, it would hopefully net save us along the long run, right? So it'd be interesting to see what they think the trade-offs would be.
My question is, I'm open to contributing because it makes sense. They have to have some compelling reason why to move over to this healthcare plan. Would it be linked to participation in a wellness plan, which a lot of companies and schools do right now, versus just here's X amount of dollars?
Yeah, I think you could totally determine that. You could, right now, just as a reminder, we're contractually obligated to work with the union on a wellness plan annually, and there's like a 3% cost difference for employees who participate in the wellness plan. That's our obligation, but any new health insurance options moving forward, I think the board has a lot of discretion over. So you could say 100% you got to do the wellness plan if you want anything, for example. Does that answer your question?
Pretty much. How strong is our wellness plan right now? I know we have a wellness plan. If they complete it, that bridges that 3% gap there. But what does the person have to do to complete the wellness plan right now?
Yeah, the current state this last fall is it's probably it's easy to access. The wellness plan is pretty easy to do. Generally speaking, if you participate in the blood draw and get your results for that, you're qualifying for the wellness plan 3% discount. I think there might be usually maybe one or two other requirements that include signing up for Teledoc to try to make sure our employees are enrolled in some of the offerings. It's not necessarily a really difficult bar to get over.
Yeah, I'd be more open to contributing if we could beef up the wellness plan. I know when we first talked about the wellness plan with this 3%, this is going back a ways. I think at the time the board's opinion is that the wellness plan would have a little bit more beef to it than it does right now. But to your point, Beth, yeah, absolutely, I can see the benefit of contributing to the plan just to get people to move over there. Yep.
If there's some interest, then we'll go ahead and include a plan option for that when we do the pricing. And then our benefits consultant has kind of different situation scenarios that she's seen from other school districts. And usually the way she describes them is different strategies are usually tied to different levels of adoption. So I can come back when we have the pricing and talk through some of the different options for contributions and move forward from there probably. I think that's probably, we're looking at like a February. We'll have some information back in January, I think, and I can come back in February with an update on that.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Could I just ask one more? With the health savings, is in this type of plan, is there more to administer on our side? I'm trying to think of like, does that put a burden more on our HR or is it more through the benefits? Do you know?
I will ask. I have not gotten the impression that it is more work for our HR department, other than the fact, so there is a little bit more work just having a fifth plan, and more options for employees, but I don't think that's a large lift. No, I don't think so.
I've worked, some of my companies, they've had standard plans and HSA plans, and once you get past open enrollment, there's no difference.
Good.
Yeah. So related to that question, we have probably the biggest change in HR process and paperwork. Is Mary here? I'm thinking is more, Mary can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have talked about doing a dependent verification process, which we haven't done in the past. And that's probably a significant amount of work. But as we're talking about that, we're looking at possibly partnering with a third party to do that at least the first time, since it's a heavy lift the first time. But a dependent verification is probably an important step for us. Does that sound right, Mary? Am I saying generally the right things? Okay.
So I'll chime in. I've done a couple of dependent audits before. And yeah, you partner with a third party and you do nothing basically.
Got it.
You hand over who's in the plan, they take it from there.
Hear that, Mary?
I mean, all you have to do is deal with the grumbling, but it's really good
Sure.
because you have a consultant you're using, say, talk to them.
Okay.
ISB delegate resolutions.
It's just a placeholder in case you want to talk about the resolutions or anything else from the conference. We don't have to, we can spend as much or as little time on that as you
Do
want.
that next meeting, I think.
Do it next meeting, that's
Yeah,
fine,
let's-
John.
You wanna do it, do it. I'm
No,
not-
that's fine. Just a quick, just so we don't have to do it next time, how's that?
Okay.
I attended the ISB delegate, ISB, excuse me. And it was a fun experience, I will say that. It was a learning curve, to be honest. I think some of my feedback would be I'm much better prepared for next year. But the process itself really was somewhat disappointing, to be honest. So it'll be interesting to see between now and next year how we proceed with any type of resolution we want to put forward, or if we want to get involved more with the process and see if there's any ways we can open it up to a little bit of change, because there was a lot of it was a lot less influence than what I expected going in. We ended up only voting on one of the 5 resolutions, technically, and so it was interesting. I came out frustrated, but it's a good learning curve, and we'll see how it goes next year. See if there's something we can do to maybe make some changes in the way the process works, or at least try and affect the changes, because a lot of the resolutions were either approved or not approved by ISB ahead of time, and those that were approved were pretty much said and done. Those that weren't approved had to be petitioned to be re-examined, and if it wasn't petitioned, then it was not re-examined and there was no vote. So that was disappointing, to say the least, when we'd all kind of discussed the way we felt about certain resolutions, and I had a misunderstanding on how much influence a vote would be able to be taken at the meeting. So that's probably the best feedback I can give at this moment.
Diplomatically
Yeah.
put, I think.
I hope so.
But
Excuse me.
I appreciate your time there and being a representative. And what I got out of this conversation too is you've already volunteered to do it next year, so that's great. Thank you very much.
I didn't think I volunteered this year, but that's all right.
We saw your pinky go up there
Yeah,
one time,
yeah.
you know.
So,
I was raising
No.
my 7-Up.
thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
Moving forward to action items. Go ahead, Danny.
The first one we have up here is the collective bargaining agreement. We've been working on that with the Federation here at WTHS since, I think, January. So Paul and Natalia spent a lot of nights with myself and the board attorney there. So I believe we included the new contract as well as a summary of changes for the board to review. I'm happy to answer any questions if you'd like.
Questions?
I don't see the motion.
I do.
Okay.
There is no motion, really.
It is 23-24, so it should say, just I move to approve the 23-24. You'll just have to make up the motion.
The pressure never ends.
No, it's okay.
The 23-24?
It says approval of 22-23 through 27-28, but it's
Okay.
really 23-24 through 27-28.
I move to approve the 22 through 23 through 27-24 collective bargaining agreement between Warren Township High School District 121 Board of Education and the Warren Township High School Federation of Teachers.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Demonte,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes?
Mrs. Pope,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you guys, too. It was a good process to go through.
Congratulations to everybody who spent a lot of hours.
Next up is an approval for a license agreement with the Now Arena.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add here, in addition to what's there, is that it's a 2-year agreement. This helps us lock them in, and there's a chance that next year's calendar might have a last day of school that's a little bit later than what we currently have. That happens every handful of years. So seniors may get, they may really like that calendar because they'll get out a little bit earlier than they even do now. But we don't really get to pick the dates at this point. It's a busy arena and it's big. So if we want it, we stick with that weekend.
Questions? If not, I move to approve the license agreement for Now Arena between the Village of Hoffman Estates and Warren Township High School District 121 for the Warren Township High School graduation ceremony for 25 and 26, and for the payment of $27,071 for the down payment for the May 18, 25 graduation ceremony. Roll call.
By Schultz and second by Pope. Mr. Carlson,
Yes?
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Demonte,
Yes.
Mrs. Pope,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thanks. Next up is an approval for some early graduates.
So board policy gives the superintendent authority for early graduates that want to leave during their senior year. So after they finish one semester in their senior year, anything above and beyond that or earlier than that has to come to the board. So we've got 15 of those students here for you today. They've already met all their graduation requirements and are looking to graduate this year.
So I'm all for, what we're going to do and let these people graduate early. Is there any reason why we can change it so we don't need board approval going forward and you can just approve it?
You could do that. Yep. You just have to update your policy.
Can know that. Any questions? I move to approve the 15 junior students to graduate in May 2024 as presented.
Second.
Tie goes to the Pope. Roll call.
Motion by Schultz, second by Pope. Mr. Carlson,
Yes?
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Demonte,
Yes.
Mrs. Pope,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thanks. Next up is a trip for the choir group to Nashville.
We don't have anything to add to what's in there now.
Questions?
I have a real quick one. Real quick one. I went to something called You Won't Believe This Stuff Happens.
They have been.
Yeah, and they were talking specifically, one of the questions about overnight trips. And, I mean, it really got good. People were talking about what if somebody gets pregnant or overdosed or arrested or whatever. What is our liability and how well are we protected for this kind of thing?
Sure. So
Their recommendation, incidentally, was do not do overnight trips, for what it's worth. That's what the lawyers said.
we do have general liability insurance for the school district that would apply to field trips. I would say probably your liability for someone getting pregnant on a field trip is the same as it is for someone getting pregnant at the school. Probably. That's my easiest answer.
Well, well monitored and?
Yeah, well monitored. We do have a staff to student ratio expectation for the staff when they turn in their plans and their proposals for the trips. And usually it's pretty easy for us to make sure that we've got the right number of adults there for that
Okay.
ratio.
The seminar got my attention, and I just.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Yep, it should.
Anything else? If not, I move to approve the Warren Township High School choir trip to Nashville, Tennessee on March 23 through 27, 2024 as presented.
Oh, I got to second this one.
Is that a second?
That's a second.
Okay, roll call.
Motion by Schultz, second by Carlson. Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Next up is some information on the tax levy, Ms. Green.
There's a lot of documents in your board packet about the levy. I'm just going to briefly go through a PowerPoint. So the timetable for the levy is basically the board approving a resolution to for the tentative levy. We have to put a posting in the newspaper, and December, did I put the 21st? It should be December 19th. We have a board meeting to adopt the final levy. That's an error. Sorry about that. The next page, this is where I begin to get my numbers for, to do the levy calculation. So on the left-hand side is the formula. The right-hand side are the numbers that I get from the township assessor. And all the numbers are estimates. The only for sure number is CPI, which is 5%. So the county gave me for growth like $1 million, but the township assessor gave me 12 million. So the numbers are probably somewhere in between, but.
Go with Tim. Let's go with the Township.
Very close.
Yeah. So basically, I used last year's EAV. I put in an estimate of what the percentage of the EAV growth would be, and then new construction, the calculation is there, and then I came up with the 66 million, yep, 965,863 estimate. I plug that number into the spreadsheet, and these are the numbers that I came up with for what we're going to ask for the levy. This is what they call a balloon levy. This is where you overestimate how much you think you're going to get, because if you don't balloon, you may leave some money on the table. So you kind of go beyond, what you think you're going to get. I did want to put in on the next slide the consumer price index, because this is impacting all the, everyone's levy because of inflation, and it's been unprecedented for the last 2 years. And then the next slide is actually what we received last year in our taxes, and what on the right-hand side, that column, or those columns are what I believe we're going to actually get. So the slide before was what we're asking for, and this column is basically what I think we're going to end up receiving in taxes. And then the last slide is a calculation for, it's within, because when you start this calculation, it's a spreadsheet, and it goes, like probably 4 different or 5 different tabs. But this calculation is the impact to our taxpayers. And so on the right-hand side, it'll say taxpayer impact. This is based on a home value of $300,000. And the estimated, which is the last line in that column, estimated change in tax payment for 2023 is $126.17. In talking to the township assessor, it was a quadrennial year, which every 4 years they do reassessment on properties. So people will see that on their tax bill, but
We didn't do that.
we didn't do that. Yeah.
So what is the CPI right now?
October came in at 3.2.
So this year is gonna be in the 3% range.
I mean, it could be, like, it's trending that way. Don't know for sure. We'll find out after, like, probably
Yeah, after the
like the
first of the
first week or two in
Yeah,
January.
yeah, yeah,
They'll release it, so.
Still true that if we don't take everything we can take, that we leave something on the table and it compounds?
Yes, yes, so if you.
I thought that had been addressed, but I guess.
If you do not levy, if you under levy.
Right.
That's money you never capture back.
Got it, thank you.
That's why you over levy.
Right.
Thank you. If there's no more questions, I move to approve the resolution estimating aggregate levy for the year 2023.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz, second by Anderson. Mr. Demonte.
Yes.
Mrs. Pope.
Yes.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes,
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thanks, everyone. Next up is an approval for service authorizations for DLH. You're up again.
So this is asking for approval of the services of a owner's representative. So with the new 10-year facility plan being presented to the board this evening, the administration has engaged an owner's representative consultant to assist the administration with prioritizing the plan's projects over the 10-year period. This contract is through DLA, but the consultant will work with us independently. Vicki Cullinan is our owner's representative consultant. She retired as a assistant superintendent for business and operations several years ago. She has extensive knowledge in building schools, additions, paving, athletic fields, roofs, HVAC systems, and 21st century classroom furniture. She will assist us in incorporating the cost of the 10-year facility plan projects into the district's forecasted projections. So the administration is recommending the approval of the owner's representative consultant contract.
And previously, some of these we had an owner's rep agreement with an individual named Jeff Masters, who were really looking for some really strong facility background, and he came from that area. But we've got an opportunity to pivot there and use somebody that has experience taking that master plan and marrying it with the budget process. So that's what we're asking for to do.
Clear on that?
So this person doesn't work for DLA?
She is a consultant. I mean, she's not like a full-time employee with DLA. She's kind of works on a consultant
But
basis.
we're gonna pay DLA and BLA is gonna pay her?
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
All good? Thank you. I move to approve the additional services authorization for an owner's representative, sorry about that, with DLA Architects Limited.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz, second by Anderson. Mr. Demonte.
Yes.
Mr. Carlson.
yes,
Mrs. Pope.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Next up, we're looking for approval on some new turf at Old Plain campus.
So you're the reason we spend all this money.
Welcome aboard, Chris.
Just kidding, Chris, come on now.
The Old Plain Stadium field turf, which was installed in the summer of 2011, needs replacing. Life expectancy for the turf is typically 10 years. We are currently in year 13. We did have our engineer go and look at the field. He said it looked like it was good, besides the turf needing to be replaced. And Right now, on the proposal, it's replacing the turf for $649,652.39 with an optional alternate of $41,674.71. That alternate is for monitors that will be on the field. They are posted, there's 2 monitors. They are on the light posts, and they monitor the field usage over a 10-year period of time. So it's basically pulling data of the usage on the field and reporting back as far as, I did ask if it would see people on the field that maybe shouldn't be on the field. It'll show some activity on the field, but it's not a camera system, so. But
So what's the added value of the additional 41,000?
basically, if it's like wear and tear. So if it's constantly being used, it'll show the usage, and like as time goes on, there may be a need for replacement sooner. I mean, I don't anticipate that, but it's something that we don't have to have, but it may be a consideration.
We know that anyway. I mean, up to 10 years, let's look at it.
True. I mean, we did not have one before, so, we don't have to have it, but it's an option that they give.
So I wonder when sensors, like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah, it's wearing out, okay. Let's pay $41,000 to figure out it's wearing out. I don't know.
So let's have a conversation on that. How do you guys feel about the additional 41,000?
It's called, you get the sales rep out and you do a review on their dime. And yeah, I would recommend that.
Not disagreeing, wear and tear? Go take a look at the field. Because I'm not sure how much the sensors can tell between activity and very aggressive activity on it.
Tried Googling it, but 2 minutes isn't long enough to research it.
And even if we have the sensors, here we are 13 years later, so.
Yeah, it's going to tell us our turf is
We're
past
beyond
its useful
10.
life.
Yeah, the way that we've approached the turf now is not really a sensor utilization approach. But if we would say like, oh, maybe we'd replace the turf 5 years earlier because it's starting to wear down and we're getting less of the use that we want to, then that might be. when
The
you
other
do
side
that.
is we were presented with a $90 million list of various things across the 2 campuses that need to be, and some of those things are within the $40,000 range. So
Yep.
I'd much rather see a coat of paint and having kids feel good about where they're coming to school at than a sensor on a field that we're just recently replacing that the company can come out and give us a free estimate on, because they probably want to sell us more. So that's where I land.
I say more of a nice to have and not a need to have.
Right.
Okay, I think we're in agreement on that.
Yep.
Okay. Then I'm going to go for any other questions on the field?
We had talked about laying cables, I think, underneath. Is that also consideration? at
Yep,
this
that is
point?
part of the consideration.
That's not part of the pricing,
It's
though,
not part of the
right? That's
pricing. We would just have
completely
to do that
separate.
beforehand.
Okay.
Anything else? If not, I move to approve the Eau Plaine campus stadium turf replacement project proposal with field turf at a cost of $649,652.39 as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Anderson. Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Mrs. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Demonte?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes,
5 yes, motion carries.
Jump in here real quick.
absolutely.
So it's a large, I appreciate the support on the item. It's a large ticket item. I would say if people in the community ask you about the large ticket item, some quick talking points could be that it's one of our most used facility pieces. It's used every day, all year, both internally and by community partners. That would be my first point of discussion. There are rentals of the field, and so those rentals help offset the cost every year. And then if you look at it as a 10-year, we got 13 years out of it. but let's just say we've got a 10-year warranty on it, and you amortize that 650,000. We're looking at about, and then you pull back rental fees. But even if you don't pull back the rental fees, you're looking at between $60,000 and $65,000 a year for a very well-used piece of equipment. So I appreciate the support on that.
Saves money
It's a
too.
safety issue too, isn't it? If we don't repair this.
Because you don't have to mow it, you don't have to take
Correct, you
care
don't
of
have to mow it,
Or
you don't have
somebody
to
down there,
stripe
if it's
it.
grass, or somebody down there babying it all the time.
Correct.
Plus, it's one of those things too, somebody can come along and say, hey, we approved all this money for a turf, what the heck? Well, we've been talking about this for years. So it's not like it just came up tonight. It's been a concern for a while.
Can you make an argument too about injury prevention and that sort of thing?
Definitely,
Liability?
definitely. Yeah, definitely. The infill on that is designed specifically to help prevent injuries.
Next up is an intergovernmental agreement. Is that Chris again, or can we just go forward with
I
this?
think you can just go with it.
Any questions on
Unless
it?
you got questions.
Okay. I was going to make you go up and talk again, Chris, but I got outvoted. I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement between Exceptional Learners Collaborative, ELC, and Warren Township High School District 121 for student 2024-02 and student 2024-03. Roll call.
Motion by Schultz and second by Pope. Mr. Demonte.
Yes.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Pope.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. Before I adjourn the meeting, I also want to thank the union reps that are here. It was a very good process to go through the bargaining. I appreciate everybody's time. We spend a lot of time, you guys spend a lot of time. It was great. And it was, you always go into the bargaining session saying, hey, nothing's personal. Let's do what's best for everybody. And that's truly what the atmosphere was. So from myself and from the board, thank you very much.
Also, thank Rachel here for coming, because not only did she come on the day before, well, there's no school tomorrow, right? So, yeah, she came, and she was gifted with a lot of financial reports and the district audit and everything that every student.
Totally exciting.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I tried to give her the report, but she wouldn't take it.
it's you got the raw end of the deal with this one, so maybe come back the next meeting.
Appreciate it very much.
But thank you for coming out.
If there's nothing else, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Motion by Schultz. Oh,
Second.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Whew.
Anderson.
Roll call.
Someone's got to say it.
Motion by Schultz, second by Anderson. Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Mrs. Pope.
Yes.
Mr. Demonte. Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
5 yes, motion carries.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night and have a great holiday.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.